The next class of submarines started by Japan was the three boats of the 2,607 surfaced and 3,688 submerged ton I-54 class, also known as the Otsu-Gata B3 type, which were built from July 1943 through September 1944. These three were a continuation of the I-40 class, which was in turn a continuation of the I-15 class. The main differences were they used less powerful machinery, which shaved some speed off their top end, but in exchange gave them a longer range. Also, they could carry a few more torpedoes. Notably, I-58 was eventually fitted with a snorkel, an idea which Japan got from its collaboration with Germany, and Germany got from the Dutch, and the Dutch got from Germany. Without doubt, the most famous of these was I-58, which sank the Indianapolis shortly before the end of the war. She survived the war, and like many other Japanese submarines, was scuttled. Many more had been planned, but as the war ground on, they were canceled to free up industrial capacity for other projects. I-54 was started July 1st, 1942, and completed March 31st, 1944. I-56 was started September 29th, 1942, and completed June 8th, 1944. I-58 was started December 26, 1942, and completed September 7, 1944. Main armament was 6-bow 533mm tubes for 19 torpedoes. A single open 140mm deck gun was mounted behind the sail. Propulsion on the surface was provided by two diesel engines, which produced 4,700 horsepower that ran the two propellers and recharged the batteries for a surface speed of 17 knots. While submerged, they used their batteries to power two motors, which produced 1,200 horsepower for a top speed of 6 knots. Range on the surface was 21,000 nautical miles at 16 knots, and submerged they could do 105 nautical miles at 3 knots. Test diving depth was 100 meters. A hangar was built on the forward part of the sail for a float plane with a catapult in front of it. Soon after completion, I-58 was converted into a chitin carrier by removing her deck gun and fitting 4 chitin and Type 22 radar. In October 1944, I-56 was converted into a chitin carrier by removing her deck gun and fitting 4 chitin and Type 22 radar. In February 1945, I-56 was fitted to carry 2 more chitin. Also in February 1945, I-58 was fitted with Type 13 radar. In May 1945, I-58 was fitted with a snorkel and traded her hangar for 2 more chitin and the new Type 3 sonar. I-54 completed her post-commissioning workup in early July 1944 and headed for Sarpan on a supply run, but when the island fell before she could get there, so she returned to Japan. In mid-October, she left Japan to try to hit the American Leyte Liberation Force. On October 26, 1944, in the Surigao Strait, she was found and sunk by the destroyer escort Richard M. Roll. I-56 aborted her chitin conversion in mid-October 1944 and headed south to patrol east of Leyte in an attempt to foil the American liberation of Leyte, returning to Japan in early November to finish her conversion. With her conversion completed and carrying 4 chitin, in late December she sailed to attack Manus Harbor, arriving in mid-January 1945. But when she got near the launch position, there were so many patrol aircraft she had to abort and return to Japan. In late March, she sailed to intercept the American invasion of Okinawa. East of Okinawa, on the morning of April 16, 1945, she was sunk by the destroyers McCord, Collet, and Mertz. I-58 left Japan with 4 chitin in late December 1944 and headed for Apra Harbor, Guam. When she got there in mid-January 1945, she launched all 4 chitin, one of which immediately exploded, then returned to Japan. No hits were scored, and the other 3 pilots all drowned in their chitin. At the start of March, and again with 4 chitin, she headed for Iwo Jima, but was redirected to act as a radio beacon for the bombers flying a one-way mission from Kyushu to Ulithi. With that done, and having jettisoned 2 of the chitin en route, she returned to Japan in mid-March. Reloaded with another 4 chitin, in late March she left port to attack the Okinawa invasion force. Unable to break through the escort screen and with patrol planes constantly on the prowl, she moved to interdict the supply lines between Guam and Okinawa. But even that proved fruitless, so near the end of the month, she returned to Japan. Now with 6 kaiten, in mid-July, she left Japan to again interdict shipping between Guam and the Philippines. North of Palau, on the afternoon of July 28th, she launched 2 of her kaiten at a cargo ship, but again they failed to hit it and were lost in the attempt. Still north of Palau, on the evening of July 29th, she sunk the Indianapolis with 3 regular torpedoes of 6 fired. I could go into the often told Indianapolis tragedy, but this is I-58's story, not Indianapolis's. On the morning of August 9th, she attacked a convoy with 2 of her kaiten. Unfortunately, it wasn't a convoy. It was an ASW hunter-killer group built around the escort carrier Salameu. Both kaiten were sunk without hitting anything, and she herself ended up running for her life. On the afternoon of August 12th, she sighted an escorted LSD and again fruitlessly attacked with a kaiten, which again brought down the escorts. Again, she had to run for it and returned home to a Japan that had surrendered. Post-war, she was studied and then scuttled off Goto Island.